boys and ghouls. My name is Ashley Ghastly. Oh yeah, and this is Reggie. Reggie, say hello to the people. You, Reggie, you. You. Reggie, you're taking the owl thing a little too far. Okay? Dial it back, okay? Okay. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. Tonight, I will be reading to you some scary stories. Well, not my personal scary stories. Stories sent in by you, the viewer, the boys and girls at home who've experienced paranormal activity. Let's get started, shall we? This story comes to us from Janeska ASMR. I was driving back from work on a beautiful day. My car windows were slightly open, and I smelled tobacco. Pipe tobacco, it seemed. I didn't quite put my finger on it at first. By the time I noticed it, recognized that it was pipe tobacco, I immediately thought of my brother and checked the rearview mirror. The smell was already gone. It took 5 seconds altogether. I, of course, saw nothing in the back seat. My brother liked smoking the pipe. He died in a car accident when I was 3. Calming Escape shares with us the experience that comes to mind about a little girl hiding in her closet. When we were kids, my best friend would come over all the time. Some days she would bring her little sister along. One day we were sitting in my room playing games when her sister stopped playing and stared into my closet. When we asked her, "What is wrong?" she replied, "I'm looking at the little girl in the closet." That comment scared us, but we also wondered what had brought this up. We asked her little sister, "Why is the little girl in the closet?" She didn't know why she was there, who she was, or if she was mean or nice. She just knew that there was a little girl hiding in my closet. This was a very creepy experience for myself and my friend, but we of course moved on and forgot about it. Years later, when new neighbors moved in next door, they came to ask us a question. They wondered if the little girl had died in their house because the mother of my new neighbors had been dreaming about a little girl since they moved in. And the night before, she had gotten up and seen a little girl standing in their hallway. As far as I know, and as far as my neighbors knows, nothing tragic has ever happened there. But as the years have gone on, there have been several stories in the neighborhood about seeing a little girl, adults seeing things, little kids asking who the girl was, and so on. Still, to this day, weird and creepy things happen, but no one knows who the girl is. Nicholas Productions has this to share. When I was about 3 years old, my grandmother had convinced my grandfather to put his hard-earned dollars into an Atari 2600. I believe it was. Not only that, but about 6 games. That night all the lights were out except the glow of the TV. Being as young as I was, I really had no idea what to do with it, so I just sat back and watched. Everybody had their backs to the kitchen, but I would randomly look directly behind the group into the kitchen. About the third time I looked, I noticed a figure. It was all white, with what seemed like a smoky core of black. His head had what looked like an abrupt downturned beak that went from his eyes to his chin. He only crept in and out of the doorway to the kitchen, peering in at everyone, then taking a backward step as if hiding, resting, or maybe thinking. One of the last few times he acknowledged me by staring directly at me instead of the group. I always would run past that doorway for as long as I lived there. This is a memory I've held on to for quite some time. I still have a few more from that house and that age. After growing up, it's occurred to me that I might have basically spent an evening with death as he plotted out how to execute everyone in the room in their own time. This next story comes to us from Scarlet Whisperer, ASMR. I've had quite a few paranormal experiences, but there is one in particular that has stuck with me all these years. When I was around 8 years old, I was home alone one day, looking for something in the basement. All of a sudden, I hear a crashing sound over my head, as if something heavy fell on the floor in the room above me. That room happened to be my bedroom. So I race upstairs, expecting a heavy book or something to be on the floor. Nothing was on the floor. I scanned the room. Nothing was out of place. Strange. That was just one of many strange events that happened to me in the home I grew up in. Odd odors, seeing faint shadows dance above my head at night, tapping and scratching sounds on the wall. As soon as we moved, I never experienced a paranormal event again. My Reginald, those were some scary stories. In your 300 years of life, have you ever been so scared? No. I have. But then again, that was 300 years ago. This story comes to us from Adele Ramcharan. This is creepy. Don't listen if you don't want to get freaked out. The other night, I was walking down a street in an unfamiliar city. I was ducking in and out of stores, and the shopkeepers were colorful, showy salespeople presenting me delightful things just to make me laugh, and I would thank them and move on. I was having a delightful time. Then shopkeeper was showing me something cool. Some kind of combination between a jack-in-the-box and a cuckoo clock. It happened really quickly, but as soon as I became aware that he was standing a bit too close and staring a little too intently, all of a sudden, the fact that he and I were alone in this dimly lit shop on a quiet street in an unfamiliar area after dark dawned on me, raising every hair on the back of my neck. Danger. When I slowly started to edge away, he'd take a step forward. I began to feel very uncomfortable. He continued to try and sell me a strange contraption, leaning in and asking how much money I had on me. That's when I noticed them. His teeth were pointed, both upper and lower sets. Oh my God. Trying to escalating things by showing fear. I screwed up every nerve of courage I had and calmly began making my way over to the door. But he hurried after me, yelling. Now, thoroughly terrified, I reached the door and hurled myself outside, slamming it closed behind me. I was happy to be back in the safety of the public street again. My shadow flickered beside me under the street lights as I walked away, glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. Soon my pace relaxed and I began to breathe normally again, enjoying the solitude of the evening quiet. But that was short-lived. Pretty soon I started feeling very uneasy again, for some reason I could not explain. And that's when I saw it. A small dog in the middle of the road, heading in my direction. It looked like one of those Jack Russell Terriers. Those dogs are yappy, but usually kind of cute. But not this one. It was twitching and seizing as it staggered towards me. It seemed intent on my ankle, and when it had almost reached me, I dodged out of its way and watched. That's when it skipped, jumped, and split into two smaller dogs. And that was the light clicked on for me. Okay, this is a dream. I stepped back into an alley, my head spinning. Adele! There was a creepy old man in a beat-up pickup truck yelling for me, and I stepped further into the shadows, my breathing picking up speed. Adele! Okay, I have to wake up now. You know what? The heat just came on in the house. This is what happened. Yeah, I was inside my dream realizing that I was starting to slip into a nightmare because I was now too hot in my bed. Does this happen to anyone? If you're too hot, you have nightmares? How do I wake up? I was looking around frantically as the pickup truck boomed down an adjacent alley, still searching for me. Adele! Adele! I find it interesting that once I realized it was a dream, I was was still afraid. I'm usually more savvy than this, but there were multiple levels to lucidity, that I was freaking out. Suddenly, a side door in the alley opened, and I tumbled inside. I found myself inside what appeared to be a candy shop, except the crystalline jars sparkled with colorful powders. There was a short man with the giant glasses behind the counter. You need to wake up, don't you? Yes. Can you help me? Sure. Here's some wake-up dust. He put a handful of green gold glitter directly into my palm. How much do I owe you? He asked. I asked. Nothing. Just send me some more customers when you get back to where you were going. I thanked him, tossed the glitter in the air, and stepped under it. Instantly, I awoke in my bed, sweating with the sound of the furnace rumbling through the house. Still in a bit of a daze, I started brushing off my pillow and running my hands through my hair before I even knew what I was doing. I thought the glitter was still in my hair. So here I am now. I don't think this is base reality, but it's as close as I can get for now. Man, life is so weird. Lizzie ASMR sends this story. Well, this happened when my brother and I were younger. Our house is really old. It was built way back in 1610. All of our friends who've slept over say that they can hear things in the night. We say, meh, it's just the wind. Anyway, one time my Bessie was staying over, and she could hear the floorboards creaking. So she woke me up and asked what was happening. At this point, I can hear it too. So I waited up with her, only to find out about a minute later that one of the cats had gotten in and wanted a late night cuddle at 3 in the morning. Callum McNeil sends 2 stories. The first is titled Not Welcome. I was taking photos in a camping ground one day. It was a sunny and warm evening. I wanted to get photos of the sun shining through the beautiful colors that fall had given us. But there was a problem. I kept getting white circles in my photos. I moved, thinking it was direct sun on my lens. I tried to take more, but my camera died. I had a full charge. I went home and downloaded the pictures. Much to my surprise, they were not dust spots. They were orbs. I enlarged the photo and could see a face, and he wasn't happy. A few days later, I went down again. This time it shut down straight away. I felt very uneasy. I felt someone was very, very angry with me. I was really scared. I walked away and very quickly looking over my shoulder many times, hoping this angry soul wasn't chasing me. I've never taken my camera to that spot again. Even when I've driven through in our car, the unwelcome feeling was so very overwhelming. Footnote: I spoke to an elder of our town who told me there had been some very nasty battles down there. The passenger. Jack Frost had made his presence known once again. A thin layer of ice had encased my car. Steam was rising from the roof as the sun was peeking over the trees. I gave the car door a tug as the ice had taken hold of that too. Leaning into the car, I put the key into the ignition and turned it to start the engine. It gave a moan as it started. I turned the heaters on to warm the car up before my departure for work. My ride to work was now going to be very comfortable. A lovely warm car. Suddenly along the streets, my car became icy cold. I grumbled to myself as I thought my heater had stopped working. I gave a sigh and carried on. Much to my delight, my car instantly warmed up further down the road. This happened a couple more times, but on the fourth trip, the reason for the temporary icy feeling made itself known. Or should I say, himself. He was a man in his late 20s to early 30s, and was wearing a brown leather motorcycle suit. He had dark hair and was well groomed. I was speaking to a colleague at my work and asked about an incident involving a motorcycle in the area. She said yes, there was one. It turns out that the motorcyclist died where my car went icy cold and was going to be where it became warm once again. He was using my car to get to where he wanted to be. The next day, when he came for another ride, I said to him, "You can go over. It's okay. It's okay too, if you want to keep having rides in my car." He turned to me, smiled, then slowly faded away. My heater came back on. My passenger had gone over. After that, my car never went cold on that stretch of road again. This story is from ASMR Duck of the ASMR Outlaws. My close encounter with the paranormal was on a day I was working as a shift volunteer ambulance officer. I was alone in the station because my partner had the ambulance at home. Long story. But anyway, I was sitting in a chair watching TV, and I could suddenly sense the hairs on my right arm rising with a very cold sensation. Then I got the scent of an old man. I knew the smell well because in my younger days I had worked at a retirement home. It is not a smell one forgets easily. I didn't feel threatened by the old man. I just figured he was checking on me and may have been an old EMT who had passed over. I said aloud, "Hello, thank you for checking on me. I'm just fine." And the coldness and the smell disappeared. Although I did have many more shifts at that station, he never bothered me again. This final story comes from Smilin Observer. When I was about 14 years old, I was walking home from the grocery store. I could have taken shortcuts, but sometimes the long way is better as they afforded me the opportunity to reflect. The night was clear, calm, and cool. As I passed the funeral home, I would read the names of the recently departed. I would never know the people, but sometimes I would recognize the last name. What can I say? Small town. On the front of this funeral home was a great tree. It didn't tower too high, but its branches spread out, obscuring the roof of the house nearby. As I walked underneath it, the tree began to move as if great wind was rustling its leaves and great boughs. I immediately took off running. I ran because the situation did not add up. The night was a calm one. There was no wind. I didn't recognize that it was cold until about that spot, unless my memory is failing me. The fact that this night just so happened to be Halloween did not escape me.
Well, boys and ghouls, it's been a spooktacular evening. We would like to thank all of you boys and ghouls who've submitted a story for us to read. It was a exciting time, and we hope that you would have a happy Halloween. Isn't that right, Reggie?
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
Okay, that was unexpected. Thank you for joining us for the Ashley Ghastly Show. And if we get enough likes and subscribes, we might make another one. As for tonight, thank you. Thank you.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.